I feel like an alien. I'm this like weirdo from Portland who swooped in and was like, I make out with everybody, but it's also really hard because I have a lot of jealousy and my emotions get the best of me sometimes. I make bad decisions sometimes, but I really want this all to work. You know, it's all the complicated feelings of when you want something so badly, but you have feelings.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 366. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a super fun interview for you with HAZL. HAZL is an amazing writer and musician, as you'll see shortly. She also is queer, poly, and a kinkster.
Yeah, as Emma said, you're going to hear shortly how absolutely incredible of a musician HAZL is. She's not only an amazing musician, she's also an incredible storyteller, and today's interview with HAZL is amazing. So
yes, it is.
Cannot wait. And one of the other amazing things about this interview is we get to hear HAZL's personal story, how it's inspired her music, and even specifically, she takes us through the writing process of one of her incredible new songs, Glitter, and she gave us permission to share a snippet of that song. So you get to hear the whole thing. You get to hear the story of where it came from, how it was written, and the final product all here in today's episode.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing. So after you hear this snippet, I believe you will be convinced that it's time to go and check out more about HAZL. You can find all the links to her work in the podcast show notes over on our website at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab where you'll see photos of HAZL and again, all of HAZL's work, or down in your podcast player show notes down below.
For anyone who is a premium subscriber, you're going to hear the snippet of Glitter first and then jump right into the interview with HAZL. For anyone who is not a premium subscriber, you're going to hear the snippet of Glitter first and then a couple of our announcements and then jump into the interview.
We're going to sing our announcements today.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. All right, maybe if there wasn't such a vast, a big contract between our singing abilities and HAZL.
Yeah, we don't want to do that comparison.
All right, without much further ado, here is HAZL's new song, Glitter.
You don't hear the sirens when I'm home and you're driving to see her. The one with the tattoos I like. Can't sleep, think about the way she looks at you just like me. I know that you're not all mine. Try to dress it up, but I'm not okay. Tie it with a bow, but the end's afraid. Keep my feelings safe deep inside. You won't see the other me I hide. Color my words to escape the gray. Honesty is hard when I'm this afraid. I wear glitter in my eyes, so it sparkles when I cry.
We are back for just a minute here to go through a couple of announcements. We hope you enjoyed that excerpt of Glitter. And just a quick reminder that HAZL's going to talk through the whole story in just a minute when we get to the interview.
Yeah.
But first off, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front. But don't worry, you still get important dates that we tell you about in the outro. To sign up for the premium subscription, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and scroll down on the homepage.
While you're on our homepage scrolling down, you're going to scroll right by some amazing, beautiful photos of Emma and me wearing our brand new shirts. They say "Be Kind" on them. And we would love, love, love to have you grab one. They are for sale and they're amazing. So please check those out on the homepage.
Next up, we'd also love to have you come join us for our next virtual speed friending event. We do these every month, and the next one is going to be November 22nd. So mark your calendars, and you can go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, on the banner on the homepage or under the events tab. Sign up and join us. These virtual speed friending events are open to anyone. You just must be open-minded and respectful. Again, it's a great way and really low-pressure way to come and meet a lot of like-minded people and hang out for a few hours. So come and join us. We would really love to have you.
Yeah, we put you in Zoom breakout rooms with a couple other people. We ask you a question. We give you a few minutes to talk about it. We scramble the rooms, get you a new question, and do that over and over for about 2 hours. So please check those out. Again, as Emma said, you can sign up on our homepage at the banner at the top.
And if you want more community, you can also go over to the community tab of our website and read all about our virtual community full of over 300 incredible people. And this
From all over the world.
From all over the world, yes. We are in there supporting each other every single day. We also do different monthly calls, and just it's such an amazing group of people. And so if you're out there and you're feeling like, you need more support, come check it out.
Yeah, no reason to be alone in this journey. We'd love to have you join us. Again, you can find that over on the community tab of our website. And you know what? If you happen to be at that speed friending event, a lot of the people who join our speed friending are also part of our community. So you get a little bit of a flavor of it.
Yes, it's a good way to kind of test it out.
And the last thing we want to remind you all about is our favorite way to get tested for STIs. If you're out there exploring non-monogamy or even monogamy and you're out there having a good time, we highly, highly recommend you know your sexual health status so you can share that and have the safer sex conversations with all of your partners. The way that Emma and I do this is we use a service called stdcheck.com. We've used it for years. We absolutely love it, and we wouldn't tell you about it otherwise. When you use the links on our website over on the resources tab, you save $10, which brings the cost of a 10-panel test down to $129, and you help support the show financially. So thank you for doing that. That helps us keep bringing you this podcast every single week for free, and we love doing it, and we don't want to stop.
A final reminder, reach out to us, send us a voicemail, send us an email over on the Contact Us page of our website. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question, comment, thought, if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to us.
Yeah, you don't have to be as incredible of a singer as Hazel is. You can just be a regular singer, or like Emma and me, a terrible singer.
Yes.
So without much further ado, let's jump into this beautiful interview with Hazel.
Let's go. Welcome to the podcast today, Hazel. We're really excited to get to know you more, go through your story, and just have time together today.
And get some music out into the world.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to be here, as I've squealed the whole time leading up to this.
Yes, even in your emails, I was like, oh, I can tell you are excited. And that's
very peppy.
Awesome. Yes,
very
that's
peppy.
Amazing. We'd love for you to just introduce yourself, and we'll start there.
Amazing. My name is Hazel, HAZL. Drop the E whenever you find me. I am a music. Oh, hey, look. Can you hear those sirens, actually?
Can, but they're faint enough. You're good. Just keep it up.
Cool.
Don't worry about the editing, Finn.
Amazing. Don't worry about that. But yeah, so my name's Hazel. I am a musician and writer based in Los Angeles currently, but from Portland, Oregon. I am queer. I am polyamorous. I'm a kinkster. I just got back from Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
I feel for some reason that's now going to be a part of my life. But yeah, so I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
Was this your first time going?
No, I haven't been in 7 years though.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a baby. I was a wee one when I went before.
We're still working on our first time.
Yeah, we have not been, but we've heard amazing things.
There's a huge San Francisco community that goes. So.
Oh yeah, I think half the city left last week, and it was noticeable. It was quiet out here. So.
Wow, that's wild.
Amazing. Well, maybe back us up. Take us back in time, Hazel, to where did the non-monogamy piece come into light? Because I imagine it weaves in all sorts of the queerness and just the life that you've been living, the music, everything you've kind of told us is just, it's your life. And maybe take us back to where you think it makes sense.
Yeah. I'm 29. And I feel very much in the younger generation of non-monogamy, in that when I found out what polyamory was, I was only 19. And I feel like that's really early. That's 2013. Like that's early. I feel like all the like podcasts I listen to currently with like yourselves, like people are feeling, I think like that time was the dark days. Where nobody knew what you were talking about. They were like, polygamy? What religion is that? Even at the time, I remember a friend just introducing me to a guy and being like, oh, he's poly. I think you'd love him. And I was like, cool. And I met him and then he left. And I was like, what the fuck is polyamory? Like, oh, I just thought you were because of like who you are as a person. And I was like, again, what the fuck is polyamory? And so I was really young when I discovered it. I think I moved through high school and in my young years, like most people, and that I was just like got a high school boyfriend, high school sweetheart. It was really sweet, really painful when he went to college, like did the whole thing. And then pretty swiftly started realizing, and what I used to tell people before I knew what non-monogamy was I want a relationship like a rave. Because my only context was the music industry. And I was like, at raves, people just go and they're not going for the artist. They're going with their friends and they might make out with some people, but they're going to go home with their friends. And like, it just like, I was like, the energy of that. And I used to like literally go through this whole description to boys that I'd want to date. Because at the time I also didn't really understand my queerness in any capacity. So trying to tell a bunch of straight boys you want to date them like a rave, I don't recommend it.
As a teenager too, like yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not, and it all kind of clicked in high school, right? I was like, oh, this kind of makes more sense that this is the mentality I have. I was kind of labeled as a tease and like all these like terrible things. And I was like, I just want to make out with a bunch of people. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so I think my early years of finding non-monogamy were childlike, in every aspect of the word. Childlike in maturity, in understanding what my purpose around it was. I think a lot of people go through a phase of non-monogamy in the beginning where they're like, I'm going to fuck around. And then you realize there's people behind like every decision that you make.
Yeah.
I got really lucky and that my first non-monogamous relationship was with somebody who was about 8 years my senior. I was 20 and he was 28. And he'd been non-monogamous for 10 years. Like he found it really early also. And he'd been in many relationships and honestly was like a really incredible guide and is still my best friend to this day. We dated for 2 years and he is a huge part of my life to this day. Like I literally called him the moment you guys were like, yes, want to be on the podcast? And I was like, you'll never guess this podcast that you showed me to. Like, oh my God. But yeah, that was really lucky, I think, in that regard. And he's been a wise sage for me kind of ever since. He's definitely transitioned into like full blown relationship anarchy, as now it's been 9 years
Since you met. Yeah.
Yeah, since we met. And yeah, I can't sing his praises enough. But I go to him for a lot of advice, a lot, not jealousy. He doesn't have that in his bones. But yeah, I started in that space. And then I was like, we ended our relationship and I kind of was in this solo poly experience for the first time. Because basically I came out as polyamorous, then was like relationship.
Right. And around 20-ish.
Yeah, really young. And go for it.
I was saying, and during that time, like in that relationship, you found out what polyamory was when you were 19. Then you said, oh, I'm poly too. And so then you got into a relationship when you were 20 with this guy that you just talked about. And
a poly elder of the sage age of 28.
I know.
I love it.
And then, but during that relationship, were you dating other people? Were you like figuring that out in that relationship?
Yeah. I dated another person based in Hawaii, which was wild. I met him on an app when I went to my parents' wedding. So at 21, I ended up having another partner who broke my heart. Oh my God, I was so sad. He broke up with me on my 21st birthday. So I guess we dated a little, like 6 months into mine, and Adam is the name of that partner at the time. I feel very comfortable saying his name. He'll be so tickled. But he about 6 months into our relationship, I started dating somebody else. And then 6 months later, that person that I dated that was not Adam, wow, it's so interesting not saying names, trying not to confuse anybody. yes, this person in Hawaii ended up breaking up with me on my 21st birthday, and Adam was there for me through all of that. I got a tattoo that day. I was a mess. And that was my first experience, like being in a relationship with somebody and having them like be there for you through a breakup, which was really earth-shattering, formative. And then about a year into mine and Adam's relationship, he started dating a new person as well. And they're still together to this day. Like, so cool. So wild. They have a house together. They are like full-blown relationship anarchists, like certainly have like a level of hierarchy in just that they've been together for so long. But like, wow, seeing somebody go from kind of like, oh, this is my secondary partner to like, well, I'm going to break up with you. So bye. And then like seeing that occur, that has been the relationship I have with the two of them is one of the most formative relationships I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I look at it very much in like a, wow, this is why polyamory is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to back up a little because there's some things in here that I would love to talk about that tie in with the experience with Adam. And I guess maybe just the first one is, you said something earlier that I think was really poignant, which is when you kind of started in this exploring and then you realize like there's people behind all of those decisions. And I think that really landed for me. But I in that, I also heard so much of in your high school experience was sort of like, you said, like, it was a rave. Like, why can't we just go and do this and have fun and go home and make out with your friends? And then it's like, no big deal. And I think what can be so confusing, especially at that age, I mean, really at any age, is when something doesn't feel weird or wrong to us, but yet everybody else is saying like, that's not okay, or you shouldn't be doing that. And we're like getting that pumped into us. And inevitably we're going to make decisions that do hurt people or that something doesn't feel good because we miss, right? That happens.
We're human too.
We're human too, right? And so I don't know if you have any reflections on that time of that, like, it felt good to me, but then all of a sudden I've started learning from everybody else that like, oh, it's not quite that easy.
Actually, I have a wild story.
Yay, I'm excited.
Yeah. So this is funny. I did not know I was going to talk about this. This is really funny. I thought it'd be way more current. And here I am just being like, this is my like young years of polyamory.
We'll the current, don't worry.
Oh, great. Awesome. But so when Adam first started dating, he was going on a lot, like with being in a relationship with me, he was going on a lot of dates and wasn't having a lot of success. And so I actually got used to that. I was like, he goes on these dates and I'm really fine with that, because then I started to realize like I was getting used to them not leading into anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm 20 and wildly confident and a climber and like perceiving myself as hot shit, basically. I like smelling my own farts, essentially, at the time. I will admit to that. And we've talked about it since many times, how comically arrogant I was. But I remember Adam went on a date one time with somebody and it went really well. And I remember getting home being like, how'd it go? Expecting to kind of console. And he was like, great. And I was like, oh, sick. I love that for you. Like, so clinically, like, pretend to be it and it will follow. Like, and then he went on another date with her and it went really great again. And then another date and then another date. And by this point he was like, hey, I think I would love for you guys to meet. We've kind of been on more than, 3 dates at this point. It would be so cool to like, I think kind of metamorphose meet time is upon us. And I was like, okay, like totally like, I can do this. I am strong at 21, maybe. And I remember at the time I worked at a climbing gym and she climbed. So did Adam. That was like a really common space to find ethically non-monogamous people. So not surprising. But the difference was, so when we connected and texted and we were like, where do we want to meet up? We didn't choose a neutral space. We chose the place I work. And that was totally, I'm the one who did that. I was like, let's go climbing at my established place that I have really rooted roots in, essentially. And I will never, ever live this down. But I remember meeting her, being cordial, climbing with her. And then about halfway up the wall, as her life is literally in my hands, oh, this is so embarrassing. Oh my God. I literally yelled up the wall in a joking manner, but like, ooh, what's it like fucking my boyfriend? Yeah. Oh, ooh, the people listening to this are going to be like, holy shit, what a bitch. I was 21. I was like, power dynamic. I didn't there was nothing. And like, oh my God. I mean, she like froze. Like, and she was like, nice. And I lowered her down. I barely remember the rest of hanging out with her in any capacity, honestly. Because you know when you spit something out of your mouth and you're immediately mortified? That's kind of what occurred. I was like, I know exactly what I just did. I didn't think about what I just said. Nothing. Fast forward a little bit. They stopped seeing each other eventually. For sure, because she was terrified of me.
Right. My life is in your hands, and you're like,
rightfully so,
vaguely threatening me on the wall.
I remember at the time, she certainly didn't tell Adam the whole story. I think I've definitely told him the whole story since. But at the time, I remember Adam being like, maybe I'll wait a little longer before I introduce you to people, Hazel. Like, you're really intimidating. And I was like, me? I am a ray of sunshine. And he was like, no, like the one relationship that was really going well, like, yeah, I don't want to make the same mistake. And I was like, okay. Fast forward a lot. Fast forward to 2021. So go from, 2014, 15 to 2021. I moved back to Portland briefly because I started building out a school bus. Wholly different story. And I run into her at a coffee shop. She doesn't even live in Portland. And I run into her at our coffee shop. And I'm like, why do I know this girl? This girl looks so, ooh, this is the girl that I threatened at the top of a wall. Oh my God. And she looked at me. She was like, hi, wow, long time. And I just immediately almost felt like I was going to start crying. I was like, oh, I'm in such a different place than I was. And I'm sure you were too. And it all like hit me really fucking hard. I was with a different friend who she also dated at one point. And he was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Big hug. And I was like, awkward hug. I have no idea how to interact with. This was the single most at this point, like polyamorous biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. And I'm re-encountering you so many years later. And we walked out of the coffee shop and I looked at my buddy and I was like, I'll be right back. And I turned around and I walked into this very busy coffee shop and I was like, hi, I would really like to formally apologize to you for 6-7 years ago. That was a wild misstep. And I have grown so much, as I'm sure you have. And I would never wish to make somebody feel as unsafe as I made you feel at that time. I was a kid. And I'm so sorry. That was fucked. Because I had just recently been through something just like that. I had been her in a dynamic right before I moved back to Portland. And it was awful. It was 10 times worse than and I remember looking at even the person that put me in that dynamic and being like, I've been you. I remember doing this to a girl. Oh, wow, this feels way worse on the other side. And so that was that's kind of my whoa, aha, full circle polyamory, oopsie thing. And that, I don't know if that's possible in any other city that is smaller, or that is bigger than Portland, because Portland is so small. But that really blew my mind, to kind of come full circle in that space. And she was so wildly shocked and uncomfortable when I apologized. She was like, oh my God, no, we were both kids. It's been 7 years. This is no. And I was like, and I just looked at her and I was like, if you'd be willing to just sit with it, you don't even have to message me or anything. I know we have each other on Instagram, but I just thank you for listening. Okay, bye. And I just walked away and walked back to my friend. He was like, what was that? I was like, a long story. So yeah, that's my holy shit, people are behind everything that occurs in your own poly lived experience.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest full circle moments I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
That was amazing. And unbeknownst to you, you answered my follow-up question, which was, how did it start going once your partner started dating people? So we now have that answer, which is amazing. So that is an amazing story. And I mean, so relatable. And whether it was dating or just so many aspects of life where you do the thing when you're a kid and you're like, what the fuck did I just do? And then
Oh.
you get to carry it your whole life, and you
Oh
had
my
this
God.
opportunity to
right.
you had an opportunity to sort of make amends in some
Yeah,
way.
which I don't, that feels more magical than like real world like
Yeah.
logic. Like,
Well, and that you took it, right? Because so many people would have just, walked away, buried your head, pretended you didn't know the person. Like, there's so many ways
yeah,
you could get an out from that, but to
yeah,
confront it, I think is pretty amazing.
yeah. No, it's definitely, I think it's such a false narrative to assume that like people in polyamorous relationships are doing it right. Which I mean, like, that's just a bar. That's I can't name a single relationship that was perfect. I can't, all the way up to this day. Even the
Yeah.
current relationships I'm in, they are not perfect. They are messy, and then I write about them and put them in songs. But yeah, no, it's messy. And life is messy, and look at me. I'm now the wise old sage of 29. But yeah, I have nothing more to say on that one.
Perfect. No, that's amazing. Well, where did it take you sort of from there? You're kind of, I guess we're at the 21, 22. Adam started dating people. You're figuring out both how to kind of be in that together. Where does that
Yeah.
adventure take you to?
So I bounced around. I went through a whole like slutscapade, for sure. I went to Australia for a little bit. I went to Hawaii. I I became a stripper. I was a sex worker for 5 years until the pandemic. And then of course had the OnlyFans, did the whole thing. I kind of just stretched my wings a lot and was just trying to figure out what I wanted. And then I met somebody else at the climbing gym a couple years later, probably like maybe a year and a half, 2 years after not dating Adam. And I was just like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. But you're like a dude. You're like a boy dude. Adam's this very like tender man. This man was certainly tender, but like gruff and muscly and looked like he was chiseled from stone. Very much my Baywatch moment. And I was actually monogamous with him for 3 years. And that was wild after like having basically turned polyamory into my personality up to that point. Cause at that age, like what else do you have going for you? I wasn't even really like pursuing music very heavily. I was just like, I'm climbing and I'm a sex worker and I don't really know what's happening. I'm just trying to like survive right now. And I met this guy who was a support, who was like, and we moved in like 4 months into dating and just fucking went. And he was like, I don't want to be poly. And I was like, I don't want to lose you. No problem. And I remember even going climbing with Adam like 2 years later and having like an identity crisis, being like, am I just not poly? Was I wrong the whole time? Because I struggled through our relationship. And he was like, whoa. Relationships are made up. The constructs of them are made up. This is when he started to really lean into anarchy. And he was like, you can be polyamorous and be in a monogamous relationship. You can be monogamous and be in a polyamorous relationship. Like, it is all made up rules. Have a blast. It's okay. You can be somebody who identifies as polyamorous, or you can be somebody who practices polyamory. There are so many different, he really, like I said, wise old sage, just love him. And I remember just sitting there and being like, okay, cool. Thanks for not making me wrong. I'm going to go be in this monogamous relationship for the next 3 years. Not cognitively, obviously.
Yeah.
Surprise, that relationship was a disaster. And then to boot, a pandemic happens.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So that it was, I was just basically constantly like, it just became one of the most codependent relationships I had ever had. And that's when I started to really look at what my reasoning for polyamory was. I was like, whoa, I think I'm a better person. I think I'm a healthier person, right? Like when I am not monogamous with somebody and that, comes with its whole host of like, oh gosh, behind it. Like, I'm gonna need to go to therapy for those. But it was definitely like a phase in my life where I was just looking at it and was like, wow, I am not like a healthy minded human right now. I've made this person my safe space. I was also going through a very traumatizing work experience as a sex worker. I am not like a big drinker. To all my friends who do drugs and drink, they're like, oh, the sober Hazel. And I'm like, that's not ethically correct because I'm not sober. But compared to y'all, absolutely. I don't really drink. I maybe have a drink once or twice a year. I don't do drugs. I've just always been that way. I kind of burnt out early. My parents never like said I wasn't allowed to do these things. So it gave me the opportunity to explore and then realize I don't like being sick and I don't like being nauseous. And I like myself sober. I know myself sober. I don't know myself other ways. And so then that became kind of my default, which is ironic because it's not usually the norm for a lot of people. But yeah, being a sex worker in an environment where there's a lot of hard drugs and there's a lot of drinking, and blatantly, I didn't want to be interacting with my coworkers, my clients. Like it was there as a means. At that point, I wanted to build out a recording studio in my house, and I was like, I know I can make money doing that. I love performing. Portland's a really interesting space in that it is full nude with bar. That is not normal in any other state. And it's also a very kind city to strippers, relatively speaking. Like it's not an unkind space, but when your standards are so low about how a human being should be treated.
Right.
And I find that specifically cis men who walk into strip clubs forget the rules of the outside world when they walk in a lot of the time. And as far as the literal definition of like sexual assault, as far as just unconsensual touch, that was happening to me on a daily basis for 5 years. And so then who did I make my safe male space? My partner, who was the only safety I experienced. I just put that. You were like, you are the safest thing. I'd come home to you. And so I kind of put myself like proverbially, like not in a real way, like I'd put like the energetic version of Hazel, I'd attach it to this partner and then go to work and disassociate for hours. And then come home and reclaim Hazel. And it was a really terrible thing to experience. I understand that like my trauma is not my fault, but it is my responsibility. And at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I was just trying to survive. And so I think that relationship taught me a lot about how to get my needs met. Because basically the pandemic happens. And I remember literally standing on stage during a day shift, and there's 3 girls working, a bartender, and 2 dudes in the club. And I'm standing on stage at this point, kind of just sitting because nobody's at my rack.
Right.
And I hear the phone call. The bartender gets it, and it's March 15th. It's the day. And she just screams, like explicits, like so loudly, like, you know, because how many girls in this industry are not paying their taxes, are not prepared, have kids? Like it's not an industry that supports women.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember kind of manically starting to laugh on stage and just thinking, I am free and we are all fucked, but I have set myself up to know that like if a pandemic assistance relief fund goes into place, I did my taxes last year. I know that I'll be okay. And it all started clicking. And I immediately just went into like full default. Okay, I'm going to apply for food stamps tomorrow. And then it hit me like a wave. And I was like, I'm never coming back to this again. This is my out. This is my moment, because it'd be too tempting, because it'd be too easy to come back. Whereas right now, the whole world is going to shut down, which means the food industry and the service industry, and that includes sex work, is going to shut down for a very long time right now. Like I just knew it from the beginning. And I was like, it's like when you have a trainer at the gym, it's like, it makes you go to the gym. It was like, this is permanently shut down, which gives me no excuse to go back. And by the time we can go back, I think I will have like convinced myself that I can survive.
Yeah, like figured out another way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I literally witnessed one girl giving a lap dance burst into tears. Who I knew had 2 kids, and I can't imagine what was going through her head. And then another girl go in and console her, and then a guy awkwardly leave. And I was just sitting there like, it was something out of a movie. Like one day I should make a music video that like reenacts this experience, because it was crazy. And I just was like, okay, we're open till 10. We're not open till 2. And then I'm never coming back here again. And it was cathartic as hell. And then very soon after, I stayed in that relationship with my monogamous partner until basically the fall of 2020. And I moved to LA for the first time. And we broke up. He moved to SF. I moved to LA to pursue music. And I just came here. Like, it was like huge transition. It was like, while the pandemic was terrifying and scary and financially really depleting, it also was like the first time that I took agency over myself, probably in my life. Definitely in my life. My dad went to prison when I was really young, and or really young. I was 17, but 16, 17, and then stayed for 5 years. So kind of in those formative, like, transitioning into adulthood phases, I didn't have any form of support in any capacity. And so I've kind of always like latched onto partners in like the like support me, be there for me. I am living in the world of being an artist. I have definitely made choices that like are not normal and create instability, and my risk toleration, like my tolerance for risk, is much higher, I think, than the average person. Again, thank you, therapy, for helping me process that. But in doing so, in leaving that partner officially and coming out to LA and being like, I'm going to pursue this. Like, it's a fucked up time to try and pursue this, but I'm gonna. And I figured it out. I joined a fire circus company. I did gig work. I lived off the pandemic assistance for a while. Didn't get into a relationship. Had a really fun friendship that like had brief moments of intimacy pretty consistently, but we were not in a relationship. Like, when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that was a friend. And then I knew that I was going to run out of money eventually and the assistance was going to end. And so I moved back to Portland, started building a school bus to live in and put a recording studio in. And, and I was just in this like kind of hyper, not hyper independence, because I was really good at outreach and like using community and understanding. Like, I immersed myself in the schoolie community. I did a mentorship with a metal fabricator, learned how to weld, did a roof raise for my school bus. Like, I fucking went. And it was all in the pursuit of music. It was all like, I need to get this done so I can go back to LA, live sustainably, and figure this out. Spoiler alert, I fell in love. I fell so hard for this little trans kid. Their name is Mac. They're currently my fiance. And I fell hard, deep, fast. We literally moved in together within 2 weeks of our first kiss.
Oh my gosh.
We moved into a tiny house, 150 square foot tiny house.
After 2 weeks?
Yes. So stupid. But like not like, I've never experienced NRE for so long, a full like year and a half of like absolute like, holy shit. They worked for a van building company that was in the same warehouse that I was doing my schoolie roof raise. And all of a sudden, Portland, which I had run away from to go be a musician in LA, all of a sudden became a safe space for me again. And all of a sudden became something I loved. And I fell in love with Portland as I fell in love with this person. And then that's when I came out as queer. I was like, oh, I'm gay as fuck. And it's nice to be gay in Portland. It's kind of scary to be gay in LA, not gonna lie. And Mac was from LA and had moved out to Portland like 7 years prior and was like,
oh wow, that's
yeah, great, like just absolutely wild. And when I met Mac, I was like, I'm poly, by the way, and I'm never not gonna be again, because that sucked and was like, I wasn't a good person, this, that, and the other. And I'm also a musician, and I'm gonna do everything I can to like continue pursuing that. This bus is my life. I'm this like hyper independent, like fucking go-getter woman, like warrior princess vibes. And they were like, hot, I want to touch your butt. Yeah, that sounds great. I like you a lot. And so I just kind of like, it was the fallout of the pandemic at this point. I only lived in LA for the year, and then I moved right back to Portland. And so, 2021, 2022, 2023, even into the fall, I'm still in Portland, and I am dating this person that I am so madly in love with, and trying to navigate what polyamory looks like this time around, because it's drastically different. I am not 21. I am 29. I have different reasons for being polyamorous. At this point, my reasonings for polyamory are community first and foremost. I love people so much. Before, it was definitely to fuck around. It was like I wasn't thinking about people. I was thinking about myself. And this time around, I was like, I want community and I want to feel safety. And as somebody who had kind of been like not experiencing a lot of like home and safety in the last, 7 years of her adulthood so far, it was like, I want this. I wanted a big energetic hug, essentially. And so, we moved through. They had never been polyamorous before. They had come out of a monogamous marriage, as a like super cis, like normative marriage.
Mhm.
Turns out they just weren't gay for each other, because they both ended up seeing queer people after, which is really funny. But it was a big growth period. My partner came out as fully trans. There was so much happening. I came out as queer. Like there was a lot. Like I got to dive so deep into like queer politics even, like, and like really understand like what queerness is to me as an adult and how I internalized and shamed myself as a kid. Like there's like Mac has been a pillar of growth and very much changed the standard of then who I want to be in a relationship with moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert, codependency still cropped up.
It could still happen, right?
Oh my God. And I'm used to it happening in like you move in with somebody and then you become codependent. And I'm skipping ahead a bit, but what ended up happening for me is I actually moved back to LA. I got this full ride into a music program and was like, oh my God, I get to make music every single day. I'm going to go back to this city that literally kicked me out. Basically, like I had a terrible experience in that like it just became too expensive, too scary, and I had to leave. I felt like I failed the first time I came to LA. Now I have the opportunity to go back, but I've just built like a very, very incredible nested relationship dynamic with this person. And now I'm going to leave to and when you leave, I was like, I'm going to dive deep into this schooling. I'm going to dive deep into my music. And that is where my own codependency actually started to crop up because now I was calling them constantly about like the hard parts about moving. It was like, it didn't become like our dates over FaceTime weren't like, oh my God, this exciting thing and that exciting thing. It became, I miss home. This is hard. I started kind of just dumping all the time. And it just, I never seen or perceived that codependency could exist because of long distance, because you fall into a habit of, like using them as like your safe space in a new scary environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's really, and I learned a lot about, I started therapy again, which was great. I'm so glad, back in March. And she's incredible. She's poly-minded. She's non-monogamy minded. She's a queer therapist. She specializes in kink dynamics and people who are high achievers. And she's been so lovely and really helped me understand kind of where I was projecting that my relationship was like going south when actually it was a great pillar. And I was just experiencing too many high stress things all at once, moving to a new city, not at first having housing security, food security, like all kinds of things, because you just take your life and you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know when I'm going to get this opportunity again to be mentored by literally the biggest people in the industry. I couldn't skip out on it. And I'd wanted to be a musician longer than I'd ever known Mac. And so it was a really hard decision, really freaking hard. And I definitely never quite understood the concept of non-monogamy being a privilege until it affected me in a way where I understood that like that I didn't have the same ease as I once did. When like it's different, it's a lot in my brain, at least it's a lot easier to be like, I'm going to be, kitchen table and like have a dynamic, but we have a 3-bedroom house and we have the financial means that like, I don't worry when my partner goes on a date with somebody that it's money that's coming away from our experiences or our financial future.
Right.
Like that didn't occur to me at 21 because why would it? Why would it? Now, approaching 30, being in a career that is extremely unstable, pursuing it at all costs, whoa, that brought up a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear. And it has been probably one of the hardest polyamorous years of my life, which is crazy because I've had some hard ones. But the music that came from it and also the journey I've been on, when I first started writing about it, I was really ashamed. I was like, nobody wants to hear, like in the polyamorous world, like we already get a bad rep. People already are like, oh, doomed to fail. And I was like, well, so is monogamy because everybody breaks up at some point in their life. Like, and I had this complex of trying to be perfect poly. And I think a lot of people have that. When I started writing, my first attempt at writing about what I was going through, I had to call Mac and be like, I'm trying to write this pre to this chorus, but it's like not connecting. And they literally were like, are you trying to do that perfect poly thing and not talk about your feelings? And I was like, ooh. Yeah. And then it wasn't, and mind you, in my class of like 46-ish people from around the world, there is one person who identifies as poly, which was shocking to me. I like just that he was even one.
One outside of you.
Yeah. He's amazing. I love him. We're such good friends, obviously. But everyone, and sure there was like a couple of queer people as well, but like the relatability, it was hard. You're in there co-writing with people. You're in there and who just don't. I'm projecting, aren't going to get it, aren't going to like, I feel like an alien. I'm this like queerdo from Portland who swooped in and was like, I make out with everybody, but it's also really hard because I have a lot of jealousy and my emotions get the best of me sometimes. I make bad decisions sometimes, but I really want this all to work. It's all the complicated feelings of when you want something so badly, but you have feelings and you're stressed as hell. And so when I started really diving deep and writing about what my lived experience was, because that's all I'd been doing so far that year, but just not touching the subject of polyamory, kind of out of fear and intimidation. When I finally cracked it open, it was my favorite writing experience of my life. I wrote Glitter, which, as you guys know, is coming out September 24th. Will probably already be out by the time this podcast comes out.
Yep.
But writing that experience, during that week, I was with three girls. It was like an all girls room. It started that way. Elise, KP, and MK were the three women that I wrote and started the production of Glitter with. Garrett came in and did the full production later, but it started, the first 2 days was just us three girls. And something about it being all women in the studio, very helpful. But I was in the middle of going through witnessing Mac start to have a relationship, and I wasn't there. That had never happened to me. I was like, whoa, I'm not there. I haven't, like, I know this person. She's lovely. I just still have feelings because I'm long distance. And I like the control aspect, the not understanding, like, oh, everything was coming up. And I had prepped that week that we were going to write like a bop. We were going to write like a happy, I was like, I'm going to write a festival song because I want to play festivals. Like I had this whole plan. I wrote a Google Drive, like I put together a whole Google Drive that was like, this is our inspo songs. This is our, like, I made the whole thing, coming in as the artist, very prepared. I walked in that day and just started crying and was like, I think we have to write about my feelings instead. And they were like, oh, okay. Yeah, we'll just scrap all of that. And that's okay. Okay, let's talk. And we talked for probably 4 hours about everything I was going through. And the very first lyrics that came through in the first verse are, yeah, you don't hear the sirens when I'm home and you're driving to see her, the one with the tattoos I like. And it was like, and I remember KP, she was actively typing and like kind of gathering information. And she was like, you described this woman as somebody who you admire, but still have experienced jealousy with. And I think you need to say that, literally the very first thing. And I was like, and I remember she prefaced, she was like, I got an idea, but you might not like it. I was like, okay. Somebody who is always really vulnerable in her songs has had no problem with this, except for this one particular subject. And I looked at her and I was like, still crying. And I was like, I could do that. Yeah, that's fine. And she was like, cool. Cause you said the girl with the tattoos I like. And I think that's just going to be the lyric. And she just looked terrified. She was like, I'm so sorry, but it's really good. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I had written the night prior, completely unrelated to this dynamic, jokingly. I was like, a friend was like, you always wear glitter in your eyes. That's so cool. And I was like, oh yeah, I wear glitter in my eyes so it sparkles when I cry. And he was like, you need to write that down. That's an incredible line. And here I am sobbing. And as a songwriter, you'll have little things that you like write constantly that are unrelated to what you're going through. And then when you find you're going through something and trying to write about it, you'll like pull from it. It's like a dictionary that you hand created.
Yeah.
And KP was reading through all of my like lines that I had curated over the last year and she was like, that one, dibs, no one else. Nope. No other songs. I was writing 3 other songs that week with 3 other groups. And she was like, go tell all the other studios that they don't get that line. They don't get it. We get it. And I was like, that makes sense. I've been crying for 4 hours. And so not only does that line, I wear glitter in my eyes so it sparkles when I cry, I feel like perfectly encapsulates the highs and lows and the beauty behind the pain of what going through living a lifestyle like this can look like. It was just literally like too perfect. It was way too perfect. So, wow, I just talked for so long.
I know. I was like, there are so many instances. I was like, I could interject with a question, and I just love where this is going and the way you like we're weaving it all together. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to comment briefly on the lyrics that you that you wrote and the process of all of that and how beautiful that is and vulnerable that is, and also extremely relatable. The glitter lyric, like it just hits home because that is so much of what non-monogamy can be like.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the sparkles and you're like, ooh, yeah. But then you're like, oh, wow, it brings up so much. And I'm having to face all of these things from my childhood. It's like constantly being in therapy.
Yeah.
But you need a therapist. Don't use your partner. Okay. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Also a good recommendation.
Yes. Sage advice.
Yeah, from a 29-year-old.
Right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's similar to what Emma said. Like I was just sort of encapsulated, enthralled in in the story you've shared. And I think too, there's just so many, there's no way to go back and like unpack it all, but I think there was so much in there, right? Of your drive, I would say your drive in life, right? But like so much of that being towards music and so much of your experience, as you described, right? Getting into sex work and getting on OnlyFans and all of these things it wasn't like I want to, and there's nothing wrong with this if somebody's dream is to be a stripper or a sex worker for life, like a completely valid dream. But for you, it was a means to an end of, I want to build a studio. This is the dream I'm going after, and this is how I can get there.
Yeah.
And yet it also, you learn so much through that about yourself, about consent, about your bodily autonomy. You're navigating a monogamous partnership while also doing sex work, right? Like I can imagine there's a
lot there.
Host of
wild.
like, yeah, how do I sort these out? Or even like being on OnlyFans while being quote unquote monogamous, or like, and how we can define those things. And I say that quote unquote, like it doesn't count, but right, we get to define what that means. Kind of like you said, like this whole relationship thing we're doing, it's made up. And so you can say, I do this, this, and this, and I call myself this, and that's what feels right to me.
Totally. And it's so interesting. So I didn't know if I was going to bring this up, but I am right now for the first time in my life, while I am so deeply in love with Mac and I love them more than anything. Oh my God. I, for the first time, am understanding what de-escalating might look like, just based on circumstance. And that's a new thing. That's like, when you hit like polyamory milestones where you're like, whoa, new level unlocked. Not that there's levels, but that's how my brain works. That's a whole new thing that I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot that's changing in my life just due to the industry that I'm in. Being long distance is difficult. So there's a lot of, I was just listening actually to Multi-Amory, which I know you guys have been on.
Yep.
And I was listening to their de-escalation, or not if you want the relationship escalator, they did an episode on that. And I was like, I'd been afraid to listen to it because I was like, this is too poignant in my life right now. I don't know that I want to listen to it. But one part I really admired was when they were talking about how the escalator itself is not bad. You take those steps and put them somewhere else. They are not bad. It's the assumption of continuance and the fact that you can never go backwards because backwards means breakup. And I've been really percolating on that recently where I'm like, wow, I don't have to end something. I can just take some steps back, and it doesn't mean that it's over or the dynamic is, ruined. And I'm gonna need to write a song probably about that in and of itself. Now that I've, written the song about jealousy and fear. I don't even know what that song would sound like, to be honest.
You'll get there.
Right?
And I think too, in that, even in some ways, even getting rid of the notion that it's backwards, right? That it's just different,
totally.
right? That it's not
Just
even
a transition.
a de-escalation, right? And I think there's so many times we create that in our minds of, well, we were, just example, right? We were living together and now we're not. We've de-escalated versus, well, this works better for us. And in many ways, to me, that's, I know this is all woo-woo here, but like that's an escalation of sort of the security and the acknowledgement that our relationship is moving, like time is moving forward and our relationship moved forward. And we said, for you, for me, for us, the best thing is to do this action. And we may be wrong. And we may have to.
Woo-woo.
Yeah.
I was like, that seems very practical.
I think it's just thinking about it in a different way.
Right.
And communicating about it in a different way.
Yeah. The idea that we're, the escalator is moving, and whether it's we're on it and riding it, I don't know, just what is best for us, what is best for you, what is best for everybody in the partnership. And that doesn't have to be backwards, forwards, bad or good. It just sort of is sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. I couldn't, I don't know that 30 days ago, I went through like a big, aha. But prior to that, I definitely couldn't have even heard what you just said. I was not in like I said, after ending writing for so long and then like taking time to like now jump into the business side of music. Yeah, I was not in a place to like digest what was going on in my relationship or in my life. And it's crazy what 30 days can do. We decided to take a 30-day no contact, just let's reset. And
you and Mac.
Yeah. And during that time, I remember just being in a lot of pain and being like, it's over. And they were like, no, it's not. And so, man, for anybody listening, breaks are awesome, is what I've now learned, as I've never done one. And I've just hit 30 days and I am way stronger. Not strong in like, I built walls up and now I'm I feel like I am getting to know myself again. I feel more empowered in my own career again. And contemplating a relationship change and it not meaning that it's over, I had like lost along the way because I didn't have the capacity to process it because of just what life has thrown at me in the last little bit.
Yeah,
totally. What I was going to say, right? Who's out there teaching us about relationships that say, well, you can take a 30-day break from your fiance, a no contact break from your fiance, and that might make your relationship better.
Yeah.
right? Everybody's like, well, if you did that, you just broke up with your fiance. You're no longer engaged, right? There's so many.
Believe me, my body thought that. My
Of
my
course, yeah.
nervous system was thrashed for like the first week and a half. I'm talking crying every day. Like I went back to LA and was like, Portland's not safe for me anymore. All that the difference is that I didn't stay there. I did outreach. I had therapy every week. I'm really grateful for that. I just tapped into my community and reminded myself. I mean, it was I was my own personal trainer, like emotional personal trainer, in a way that I've never been for myself. It reminded me of when I first moved to LA after that monogamous relationship and kind of picked myself up by my own, boots and went. This was like a micro intense version of that, but I'm not with my partner, and that's sick. Like I don't know many monogamous people who have experienced that. I would love to meet them. But that is something I do think is unique to people who are practicing non-monogamy, and that it's not a foreign concept. It's like, no, it is hard. It's still not an easy concept, but it's like you kind of have one step up, and that like, it's just not unheard of. And it works a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to like chime in and say, right, the idea that you couldn't have heard that 30 days ago, or, I said it like I was a wise old sage. And at the same time, like in 30 days, there's a good chance either one, both of us, all three of us could be lying on the floor crying about that. Like, so it's not like, oh, I just know it and I live it all day, every day. It's sort of one of those that like, I know it, but you don't always feel it. And it often feels way worse.
So what you just said, literally, I think is the reason why I'm putting out my music. Literally the reason that I'm putting out this song that is like the scary parts of polyamory, because like that's what songs are for. Like you don't listen, like you put on songs that you feel relate to you. And I have not heard any song in my life, and there's a lot of music out there in my 29 years that I've listened to that correlates to the type of relationships that I have. Everything is, you're the one for me. I'm leaving her for you. Or like, it just, I can't even, there's no point in trying to name the songs because it's all of them. Or it's, we're all going to party. Like those are kind of the like spaces. There are so many songs about single, like two people in a relationship or two people breaking up.
Yeah.
And when I started showing the demo to my poly friends, every single one, just tears, just instantly like, Hazel, whoa, this matters so much. Like you just made something that like, what is the statistic? Like as many people that own cats in the world are non-monogamous at some point in their life. Like that's a large amount of people. That's huge. I also have a cat. So like, come on, like that, and then the fact that like I've never heard it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I certainly would love to meet other artists that are making things like this, whether it's visual art that represents this or more music. Absolutely. We could probably write the coolest shit with two people's experience behind it. That is when it hit me. That's when I was like, oh, this is going to be my first single of the year. This is what is going to be on my first EP. I am going out with a bang. And it is literally like, all right, here we go. Feelings, have them. They're mine, and now they're everyone's. But yeah, seeing people's reaction to the song has really put some fire under me, and that like, okay, cool, this needs to come out now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and this blew my mind. I don't know why I didn't think of it before when I was writing it, but the amount of monogamous friends that relate to it.
Right.
That was sick. I was so worried. I was like, oh gosh, but then I'm only placating to like the small percentage, blah, blah, blah. And so at my school, when you have to submit your song every Friday, and then you play on Monday, it gets played on camera, on stage in front of everybody and the mentors of that week. So the song was played in front of Katy Perry's manager, Chris Anacute, Stargate, who are the producers behind Rihanna, Coldplay, Katy Perry, the list goes on. They're like, they are the people who created the early 2000s, basically, in music. And I played it in front of them and got their reactions. And they were like, you know what's so interesting about this song? And Chris Anacute, Katy Perry's manager, was like, what's so interesting about this song is, as a monogamous person who's been married, has a kid, not married anymore, I really relate to this song. And he's just like, he had like one tear. And I was like, well, that, I don't know why I just didn't think about that. I just didn't. And he like motioned to the room. He's like, and as a room full of primarily monogamous people, look at the way they're moved. And that shouldn't be taken for granted. And I was like, whoa. And so there's a lot of like ahas happening, and like, oh, actually just write about your feelings and be as honest as you can, because people really love that. Like, vulnerability begets vulnerability. And I've known that always. And songwriting is just a constant reminder that it is such a bridge to absolutely every gap that our society has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you had that experience too, like when you first played it and that, you know, have that reaction, and how just validating in that moment.
Yeah. It definitely made me like, okay, cool. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
This thing that was very scary. Yeah. That's definitely, and that's what I'm just going to keep doing. Honestly. Like that's the only plan for the next long while.
Yeah.
Which
might be scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, I'm just curious, what is the best way to, of course, links will be in the show notes, but what's the best way to support you?
Social media and streaming my music. I am all caps HAZL on every streaming platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. My social medias are all Hazel's Rad World, again with no E, but all that's, if you type in Hazel's Rad World into anything, I come up. My Instagram has all my links for my music, music videos, et cetera. I will be putting out a song every 4 weeks for the next 2 years. So if you want to follow an artist that is consistent and continuing to put her heart on her sleeve, and you happen to be non-monogamous, you will probably like what I'm making. You might hate it. Also, you don't tell me that though. But yeah, I am literally every platform on the planet, and it's all consistent. Just look for the clearly gay with a mohawk or faux hawk or just mullet.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, as Emma said, links will be in the show notes. Absolutely. And please go check out and support this work. And I just wanted to comment on the piece about it being relevant across relationship dynamics. And I think because what to me, what you've done is you sort of spoken or sung the feelings and the fear that so many of us feel. I mean, you can say, well, we feel those in non-monogamy, or we maybe expose ourselves to them in non-monogamy, but you find me a monogamous person who's not walking around afraid that their partner might leave them or might have just looked at somebody else or has a crush on somebody. And so I think in the non-monogamy sphere, we sort of invite that, we expect it, we lean into it a little bit, not to say that it's easier all the time or that we're masters of it, but I think that experience is so human, right? You fall in love with somebody and you're like, oh, but they got really excited to go out to dinner with that person. What does that mean about me? What does that mean about us? They weren't that excited. So those feelings are so ubiquitous, regardless of our relationship dynamic.
Totally. Absolutely. I have nothing to add to that. And that, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that you're taking them for anybody and putting them into words and putting them into art and song, and that you've gotten to finally do the thing that you've busted your ass and your body and everything to do for a decade.
It's so exciting. So exciting.
It's really cool hearing it put in that perspective. I think I definitely lose sight of that. You just said a decade and my brain was like, whoa, like that's wild. Like I last thing, promise.
You're good.
Don't need to make that promise. We're
great.
good.
Amazing. I what is the phrase? It's like opportunity is, what is it? See, I'm gonna fuck it up. It's fine. But the whole premise of like when something incredible happens, it's both the combination of like preparedness and magic. When I got the full ride into LAMP, it felt just like magic, only magic. I was like, this is the first thing that's ever happened to me that is like a chance, an opportunity. I have worked so like hard at nothing for so long, and this is definitely just like magic. And then I realized, no, it was my music that got me into it. It was the work I've put in. It was, and then that has just continued. That is like literally like now I'm starting to understand what meeting with record labels looks like, what production, like what publishing deals look like. And I'm just sitting there like, whoa, it's been a journey, and I am nowhere near the end of it. Not even close. They say it takes at least 10 years in the industry before like you've made it. And I feel like being at school for last year was like the gestation period, and I am in year 1. But hearing you say the last 10 years is really fucking validating. And it's just thank you for those flowers. It's a nice reminder.
Yes. You deserve it too, because it's definitely like, there's a lot of work.
And anybody who's listening, like, music is absolutely beautiful. When you emailed us, like, first thing I did, I was like, let me hear how this act, because we get emailed lots of things, and it's like, how is this? And
and you guys got the demo. I was actually, I'm going to send you guys, we just finished it yesterday. Like literally, like it is done. It is sent for mastering. And I was going to send it to you guys. And
that'd be amazing.
You want to play it on this episode? Go for it.
We can? Oh, yes. Then we'll put it at the beginning. So people hearing this are like, we already heard that. But that we would absolutely love.
Love
that.
And I'm also, just to kind of wrap up here, I'm a little curious, like, you're coming out of this 30-day period with your partner Mac, and where do you see where do you see yourself going in relationships, and kind of like maybe from today?
There's the deep one. Where do I see myself? I thought I'd have a lot of anxiety leading up to my conversation with Mac. That's literally going to happen right after this.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. You were like, anything not to talk about? I was like, nope. I think there's a lot that can't be answered because it's two people in a relationship. It's not just me. Mm-hmm. I've also, in the last 60 days, developed a new relationship that's really fun too, which I didn't expect to be happening all at the same time, right? Gosh, polyamory is a beautiful mess sometimes. But I don't want to be disingenuous in that my number one relationship right now needs to be with myself and needs to be with my music. And that's why I'm here. Because if it was just about being in a homestead polycule with my chickens and my goats, God, I want that so bad. Hear me, universe, 10 years from now, all mine. But it's not that right now. And it can't be that. And it won't be that, because that's not what's needed for me right now. Mm-hmm. So as far as what I see myself in relationship right now moving forward, I think my only job is to be honest with myself and put that, and not in a shitty, selfish way, and not like, please don't take my words out of context. And so I think what that might look like is de-escalation. What that might, in all aspects, even this new thing, just being like, hey, I do this thing where I get really attached and then I don't pay attention to myself. So I'm going to put boundaries and in place that make it safe for me moving forward and make it safe for everybody else involved. And I think that is my journey right now. If I'm being completely honest, like I had some things in my own anxiety crop up about being on a poly podcast and not being very good at being polyamorous from my perspective. And I listen to poly podcasts because I want that big brother vibe. I want that, like, you've done this, you fucking get it. And then I was like, they're about to put this me on that's been, quote, poly for 10 years and has struggled so much through it, but is making really cool art about it and is really trying to not make herself wrong about it. So yeah, thanks for having me. I know that you're like, yeah, of course, that's the whole point. But there is a deep amount of imposter syndrome that hits me when I talk about polyamory, because I'm out here being like, yeah, I'm poly. Here's all the things that I've really goofed though. And I don't hear that as much. But I also know that it's because I've goofed, I want perspective from people who aren't goofing.
And I will just say there's a lot, pretty much most people are out there goofing.
Yeah.
Like it's just not depends on the people's journeys talked about as much, but I don't know. We've talked to so many people on this podcast. Everybody's story is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But a common piece is that we're all human figuring it out as we go.
So true.
And that's like the baseline.
Yeah. I wanted to add a quick thought to this. And this, I've since fallen in love with Adam since the beginning of this episode. I'm not shitting on you, Adam, because I know you're listening right now. Yes. But my 2 cents on this is you had said Adam doesn't have a jealous bone in his body, and Adam's probably not the person to teach people how to not be jealous. Right?
Totally. 100%. And he knows it. He'll say it.
Yep, right. Somebody else has to do that teaching. Somebody else who's lived that, right? LeBron James isn't the one to teach me how to be a good basketball player because he came out that way. And so we have to learn from people who have learned versus people who were maybe gifted or lucky in some way, shape, or form. And so I think just your story and so many of them that's really where the power comes from, is the humanity behind it. And to say that Emma and I know what we're doing, no. You people have no clue how hard it can be and how hard it has been. And so we're just really grateful for you to be here sharing the true vulnerability and then to put it into your art.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Like sharing that you feel the imposter syndrome, because that's relatable. We feel it too.
Oh my God. I can't imagine what it was like being a multi-amory. Oh my God.
Yeah. Things like
strong
that.
individuals.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I mean, just like little things that come up and just for fun here is, right. You have in front of you have a much nicer microphone than we do. We literally have the same microphone we've been recording on since the first day we started this 6 years ago.
This mic, I'm pretty sure, is like $60. I can't imagine.
No, we're just still using the same one that we've been using since the beginning.
So we're imposters all day, every day. It doesn't even make sense what we're doing. So let's just keep doing it.
I love that. Thank you guys so much. You guys, I want to meet you in person so badly. I want to give you guys like the biggest squeezes. It can be very sweaty.
That's fine.
But wow, what like sweet little beans. I'm really just super appreciative.
Thank you. We will meet in person.
We will make that happen.
Yes.
Come to a show. Oh my God, come to a show.
That would be amazing.
Let's do it.
You're close.
We're close enough. We'll make it happen. And to anybody else, links to those shows will be in the show notes, so you can go to a show too.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, thank you, Hazel. And I mean, there's so much more to your story, and we'll get it the next time we talk, because this isn't our last time.
Oh, yay! Butterflies.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day. Stay cool. We're in the middle of a heat wave. I know by the time this comes out, people are like, stay cool. Like, it's hot right now. So stay cool.
It is.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Hazel.
Bye.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Hazel, for everything today. It was so lovely to meet you and to talk with you and to get your music out there in the world as well, and your story. So thank you so much. Also, a quick reminder to anyone listening, you can go and find links to all of Hazel's work on the podcast tab of our website over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com or in your podcast player.
Yes. And a thank you from my side for the generous offer to let me be a backup dancer in your first music video. Most people don't.
Both of us?
I mean,
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know if you got your invite or not. But most people don't know that I can twerk, and I'm not too bad at it. So looking forward to dancing for everybody.
And with that, a quick reminder that our next virtual speed friending event is coming up on November 22nd. Mark your calendars, sign up on our website, come and join us. We'd love to have you. And next week, we have another interview for you. We are super excited about this one. It's bringing back some previous guests, and oh boy.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this is it's not just previous guests, it's a whole bunch of previous guests because
4 of them.
4 of them. So if you want to go and find what we're talking about, there are links in the episode show notes for this to previous episodes with Christy and David, Jason, Rebecca, and then Christy, David, Jason, and Rebecca all on one episode together. So there's a whole bunch of episodes you can go catch up on. However, you don't have to. But over the next month, we have a series of 4 interviews coming at you with various configurations of a quad or a sort of a quad, all living together and how they make that work.
Yes.
And it's absolutely amazing.
It is. So you're going to want to stay tuned and come back and listen next week.
And one more plug for our community. These folks are all part of our community.
They are.
So these are the types of amazing people you would get to hang out with for just like $5 a month.
Yeah.
All right. Enough selling. We hope you have a wonderful week and enjoyed this interview with HAZL, and go check out her music.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.